You are listening to Your League Tennis Podcast with your host, Anthony Radonia. Anthony's an avid weekend warrior tennis player, just like you. Every week, he'll be interviewing new and exciting guests that will not only differ in experience and skill level, but also in age and physical ability. Your League Tennis Podcast is about making you a better tennis player, whether you're a beginner or have been playing for years, in your 20s or in your 60s. Now, here is your host, Anthony Radonia.
All right. So you can hear good, Matt?
I can.
Cool. Yeah, my ears are doing something weird right now.
Well, actually, I'm not hearing it through the microphone. Oh, there we go. Now I do.
Yeah, so this thing, it's going to be a little weird.
Yep.
So feel free to,
Now we're good. Just had
mess with it. Cool.
We'll plug in.
So I have my buddy, my friend Matt Flanagan here. And we haven't seen each other since.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been years, or did we even see each other like once in between somehow?
Post-COVID?
Post-COVID.
Yeah, maybe. I know we've been, texting a lot, but I don't think we've maybe once since COVID.
I can't even think of where we would have seen each other though. But I don't know. Maybe someone's tennis party, or I don't know. Actually, I can't.
Where did time go?
Yeah, I know. So it was prior to COVID.
It was prior to COVID.
The last time I saw you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so obviously we know each other through tennis. We played at the club together, and we played that league.
Yeah.
Where we got to won sectionals and lost first round in nationals.
Yeah.
Is that the one we played on? That's right. It was a 4-5 league.
Yeah.
And that was 2019
19
then.
Yeah. That was the last one before COVID. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was awesome.
Oh, that was so fun.
That was so much fun.
Yeah,
we had some memorable matches too.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, when I made my little notes to talk to you, I was like, I got to bring up that one serve where you hit Mark in the head. If you remember it. I think that was on our way to sectionals.
Yeah.
That was a big match you guys won, but we'll talk about that.
He's not the only one, unfortunately. In fact, I just did that recently.
Oh, really?
With a good friend of mine back in Lake Nona. I'm like, oh man, I got to change my serve.
Where'd you hit him?
In the head.
In the neck?
Head or shoulder. And he's like,
shoulder I can handle. I remember you hit Mark right in the neck.
Yeah.
And I heard it. It was like someone slapping him in the back of the neck.
I could not hit a serve for like the rest of the match. I was so gun shy.
Oh my God.
I was ready to go underhand.
Oh, that's so funny.
I was like, I have got to change there's some disconnect between my legs, my deep knee, kick.
Yeah.
It's just not, I'm not kicking. The legs are not getting there. So
is it only on like one side? Like
it's only on the ad side. It's on the ad side when I'm trying to do the big kick out wide.
Oh, okay.
And
it's just not kicking over their head.
It's just, I'm doing the big twist and the body's just not catching up. And I'm just catching it wrong, and it's coming off the racket and
coming off too flat, you think? Like it doesn't have that little.
Yeah, I do a twist, and it's just I mean, I'm just shanking it hard.
Oh, okay.
And it's just.
I was just watching a video on how to do a kick serve. Actually, I just YouTubed that today. How to do a kick serve, because I feel like my second serve is one of the bigger problems. I can get it in. It's not like I'm double faulting.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of movement to it, so it's just sort of sitting up, So I feel like I have to slow down my first serve a lot to make sure I'm not doing second serves.
Yeah,
which doesn't allow me to feel free on my first serve and get some free points.
Yeah, I've actually been watching some videos recently. Jeff Salzenstein, I think he's got some good stuff.
I watch his stuff,
and I just watched another one on the serve, and it's just like a couple of the basics about the serve, the elbow, and the toss. I think the biggest problem for me has been the toss. I think when I was younger, I was just like, hey, I'll just throw it up. Doesn't really matter. I'll go get it.
Yeah.
And now I throw it up, and I just can't get up like I used to.
Yeah.
And so that's a problem.
Yeah.
So I've got to get to a more consistent, tossing rhythm and location. Even experimented with starting with my racket head up and just eliminating the backswing a little bit just to kind of simplify it. But it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you live and die on your serve. I mean, for so long I was used to getting, some free points or getting a setup. And, when that starts to slip, when your body starts to not be able to do what you want it to do, but you still are kind of dependent on those free points or those setups, it's hard to let go. It's hard to go to that softer serve.
Do you have any clue how fast your first serve is? Like on average, not how fast you can serve if you just swung for the fences, but
yeah, I don't know. Was it 120 back in the day? 110? I don't know.
Yours was always fast. I mean, you're tall too. Like, how tall are you?
6'3".
6'3". Okay. See, this was the funny thing when me and Adam were talking last podcast. He was claiming, I know Adam could hit a strong serve. Adam's stronger than me. Like, he can hit a really strong serve. But he was like, oh, you hit 110. And I'm like, I do not hit 110 on my serve. No way. And then I told him on the podcast that after watching Swing Vision was saying I was hitting my serve at 80.
Uh-huh.
And someone told me, I'm hoping it's true, that the Swing Vision miles per hour is the one thing that's a little off.
Interesting.
Yeah, the one thing, because it's fabulous.
Okay.
We'll talk about that more too, but they claim that's the one thing that's a little off, and I forget how they explained it. Like the pro speed gun or whatever is rating the speed of the ball like off the racket, and Swing Vision does this average of speed after you hit, like your ball goes. And obviously wind is a factor, like distance is a factor. All these things slow down the ball through the air. And someone told me that Swing Vision takes that into account. So maybe like my 80 miles per hour serve on Swing Vision might be 95 if it was rated by the guns that they use for pros or something. I don't know. It's just someone telling me something.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I ever had the fastest serve, but I always had a big kick.
Yeah.
And, I think I got to start flattening it out, moving it around a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I remember you always had a nice, good serve, good service motion. And you and our friend Chris, like anytime I gave you guys an overhead, I knew it was done.
Well, the overhead I can still hit. I feel I can get up. That's fine. It's almost like a dry. It's like getting off the tee in golf. But obviously there's a few more moving parts in tennis. But you got to get that ball in, a predictable, and maybe as you get a little older, a little simplified motion.
Yeah.
Without trying to put too much into it will serve you well.
Totally.
Got to get the ball in the fairway. You got to get your first serve in.
Yeah, no, for sure. Here, I'll start out with the gift. I don't know if you've been watching the podcast, but I've been trying to give everyone this mic's. Hold on, sorry, these earphones are going out a little. Trying to give everyone a gift. So I searched through my tennis cards, and I thought Pistol Pete Sampras would be a good gift for you.
Nice.
So I don't know. Do you know ratings at all? Like how they rate cards and things?
No.
Okay. Well, this is a company called Beckett. They rated this card at 9.5. So obviously 10's the best.
Okay.
The 10s are worth substantially more, but this one's not a bad card. It's probably a good $40.
That's awesome.
So I buy a lot of these like mid-range, lower-end cards too, just to have them because they're like I love collecting them. And I think this one's 1991.
Yeah.
So Net Pro is who made it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a nice card. So there you go, my friend.
No, I appreciate that. No, I thank you. No, this is great. Pete with his one-handed backhand.
Yep.
Yeah. Little backstory on that. I wish I had. He made the transition from a two-hander to a one-hander, but he made it at 14. I mean, he was a studly. He was great in the juniors, but he took a big gamble and changed from a two-hander to a one-hander when I think he was 14. And he'd already had a good amount of success.
Wow.
So to take that step back and do that, I did that at 17.
You did that too?
Yeah.
Because you have a one-handy.
I did. But I had a two-hander up until senior year of high school. And I made the transition thinking, it was the era of Becker and Edberg and all these one-hander, Lendl. And it was just, I liked the one-hander. I had a decent two-hander. Mm-hmm. Kind of had like a board, kind of a whippy two-hander. Just didn't like it that much, and I thought I need to get a little more, chip and charge. And I was just enamored with a one-hander, and so I made the transition 1 year before I went to college. And
around what year was that?
That was 86.
You think it could have been the rackets too? Like nowadays with the rackets how they are now, it's probably not such an easy switch to go. I'm just gonna go one-hander. I don't know. I feel like the rackets nowadays sort of help the two-hander with their spin and control, and that's what I feel. But
well, we were right in the. I was, I started playing tennis with a wood racket, not to age myself.
Yeah.
But it was wood, so it was right in that transition to graphite. Yeah, I don't know.
So what was the Pete story? Like, do you know the story of why he switched, or who told him to?
I don't know who the coach was, but I have another interesting backstory. So I had a buddy of mine that I played tennis with at Cal. I just played 2 years, but a buddy of mine, a couple guys one of them belonged to the Palos Verdes, the tennis club in Palos Verdes, the Kramer Club.
Okay.
And one of my friends was coming down, and he was looking for somebody to hit with, and this guy, one of them recommended this young guy. He's kind of up and comer, and I, as the story goes, the other guy said, no, I want to hit with somebody who's a little older. I think that's the way it went. But anyway, the youngster turned out to be Sampras.
Wow.
Yeah. So he grew up at the Kramer Club in Palos Verdes. So someone there, one of his coaches, recommended making the switch.
Wow.
Not exactly sure who or how or why, but I was just, that's pretty amazing that he did it kind of halfway into his, junior career.
Yeah. Because I don't even know if it's on the card, but when did he turn pro? Was he mid
89, 90 maybe?
So late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. I mean, he won his first U.S. Open at 19 in 1990 or 91.
Yeah.
I think 1990. He was 19.
Well, then that's crazy because he didn't really have that long of a career because he retired in like 2001 or 2.
Yeah, like 30. He's probably 30, 31.
Yeah. And that's funny because people always tell me like I'm going to destroy my arm because I put weight on my racket. And obviously Pete just had probably I've read and seen things where he probably had so much weight on his racket. He's probably destroyed his arm.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. I haven't really heard about it. I mean, maybe I'm totally wrong.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the reason he quit. I don't know.
I know. And you think about, Rafa and Federer going strong at 35 and 35 plus.
Yeah.
And, and then if you think about McEnroe and Borg, quitting early, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. I sort of skipped over the rapid fire stuff, but that's okay. I was hoping you can tell everyone a little about your current level. So do you still have a USTA rating? You said you're playing, so I'm assuming you do. And do you have a UTR? Do you know it?
I don't have a UTR.
Okay.
I've not been playing as actively since our national. I mean, I've gotten a little bit back into it in the last year, playing on clay. I mean, I think during that tournament when we played in 2019, I was playing on some torn Achilles, not like a full-blown Achilles, but like micro tears. And it took it's taken a while to get that where it's feeling comfortable again.
Are you wearing a brace or anything?
No, not now. Okay. But now I finally feel I can kind of run normally and things like that.
I sort of remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're still a 4.5 as a USTA?
Still a 4.5, yeah.
Okay. Were you ever a 5.0 or a 4.0? Do you remember like bumping up or anything? Or were we always out? Because, I mean, you said college.
I played college. So, I mean, I just self-rated as I played probably coming out of college in my early 20s, probably played open, some open stuff and some 5.5. But then I didn't really play a lot until maybe I was, late 30s. So I took some time off, and then I think they said, you might as well just rate it a 4.5.
Yeah. I think most people do. If you played any college, I think they sort of tell you, depending on the length of time between college and now, it's like you're a 4.5 probably at the bottom.
Right.
And sometimes you can come in as a 5.0, I think.
Yeah.
So when did you start playing? Like how early on in your...
So we moved back to the Washington, D.C. area, and we were fortunate. My parents found a house right next to tennis courts, a little swimming tennis club. So
where was this?
This was in McLean, Virginia. So we moved from the Bay Area to McLean, Virginia. And literally I could look outside my window, my room, and I could look at the 2 courts, and they had another 2 courts just down the hill.
Wow.
So I was probably, 9 at that time.
Okay.
So I just started playing.
Hard court?
Hard court.
Okay.
Started playing, at least during the summer times, I mean, all day, every day.
Wow.
And it was great.
just for fun. Like it wasn't any plan on dad didn't have plans for you or nothing.
No. It was just kids from the neighborhood would all show up there, and it was the place to hang out. And
Oh, wow.
we played basketball, and we had a ping pong table, and
Oh my gosh, that's
a
cool.
couple pools, and it was just the place to hang out all summer.
Yeah.
So it just made tennis was really fun. We had team events, so we would play different clubs in the area.
Mm.
And so for the 10 and under, 12 and under, 14 under, all the way up to 16 under, we would just, have these team events.
Yeah.
I think that sort of fostered my love of tennis, but also love of team tennis.
Yeah.
Because tennis can, as you know, can be very individualistic sport. Yeah. And I think having this sort of team environment where you're representing a little, it wasn't a fancy club by any means. It was just a summertime swim and tennis club.
Yeah.
That was a ton of fun.
No, you're totally right. Because like I was talking about either with Scott or Adam, but I enjoyed tennis. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it as a kid, even though I played it every day.
Yeah.
Just the thing I did. After school, you go straight to tennis. Then you come home and do your homework.
Yeah.
That was my life. I didn't really, really enjoy it and love it till my first year at college, which was junior college, Pasadena City College.
Yeah.
And that's when, first sort of real team aspect, because even in high school, there's usually like one, maybe two good players on the team, and sort of everyone else is sort of not really a tennis player, but just enjoying high school tennis and having fun. And there's it was like only me that would really go out and play tournaments. So I couldn't really practice, with people on my high school team.
Yeah.
So obviously I would still go play the matches, but I don't remember like that camaraderie that you have, because no one really cared. They sort of did other things. But in college, obviously, it was different. And that was so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think I really enjoyed tennis in just that team environment and that casual environment. The one, in retrospect, you start playing these club events, and you start winning, right? And then there's this, you like that, and there's this expectation you win, and then you don't want to lose, and you don't want to lose to the people you're playing with, or you don't want to lose to the people you've been beating.
Yeah.
And then there's this: are you playing to not to lose, or are you playing to win? Are you willing to take a step backwards before you go forward? And it kind of comes back to the Sampras thing. Are you willing to change your game to take it to the next level?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the challenge.
Yeah.
I probably got a little comfortable playing the way I was playing, and I was fairly quick, and I grew early, so I could kind of overpower, a lot of the kids, but didn't necessarily translate when I would go out, and I played competitive league, USTA as well. And I did okay, but I think had I maybe done, taken a few more lessons and fine-tuned my game and had someone be pretty, honest with me, like, you should be doing more of this. You should be serving and volleying. You got to work on your volleys. You've got to play, you got to think more out there. You just can't, you can't go to your strengths all the time. You got to work on your weaknesses. I think my game would have evolved a little faster. But at the same time, I still love tennis. I didn't get burned out early, and so then I did pretty well in juniors and in high school, and then I decided I kind of wanted to give it a shot playing college tennis.
And then you played at?
Well, I gave it a shot, playing it at Cal, Berkeley.
Oh, Berkeley, okay.
Yes, which was a D1,
yeah.
And I was there. There was
school.
High D1. It was they were top 10.
Yeah.
And, I got a little taste of it. I won a little tournament with one of the guys that was really good and freshman year. And then got a little injured, but, my sophomore year. But it was a big leap. Those guys were really good.
Yeah.
I had a great time playing. It was a great camaraderie. Friends to this day.
And that atmosphere up there is always, I remember, pretty amazing. Like in junior college, I played Sonoma State, probably not close, but then I played UC Davis.
Yeah.
At Cal Poly, And Berkeley, I don't think I ever played because they were probably D1 still when I was going. But for some reason, the colleges up there just, oh man, like slow. San Luis Obispo, like the atmosphere up there is so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
So and the school really cares too about the programs and stuff. Like the other kids, at least when I went to play, the other kids came out, and Cal Poly Pomona wasn't like that. Like there was no one watching our matches, but when we played someone up there, like all the other kids came out and cheered, and they probably didn't even know about tennis.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. I mean, I didn't have a lot of highlights, but I remember, warming up our number one guy when they were playing Stanford, and there was a lot of people there. So it was, and one of the fun things about playing at Cal was the school band practiced right next to the tennis courts.
Oh, that's cool.
So you're out there practicing, and the band's playing, and it's just you get fired up. You feel the spirit of everything.
Yeah.
So it was.
You obviously didn't have your Bluetooth speaker out there. It was too early for that. Yeah. So you had the band, the live band.
We had a live band. Yes.
So after college, then you didn't really take a break, but you sort of played off and on.
Yeah.
When did you start playing like more often to where you get to the level where you're playing league with me in 2019? And
yeah. Well, I think I got to attribute that to Joe Balwig. He was, we met through our kids were going to school together, and so we would go out and hit. And I think he was asking me if he wanted to get back into it. And finally, I was playing a little soccer in those days, and finally he said, "Let's do it." And so that was probably.
You were playing with Joe soccer? Like you guys did men's leagues too in soccer?
Well, he was playing soccer too. We never played together.
Okay.
But I was playing a lot of men's soccer.
Awesome.
And then, anyway, I think probably started playing maybe 2016, 17. Finally got into it.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah.
I missed this.
Yeah.
And
were you continuing to play soccer during 17, 18, 19 or no?
I think I had stopped playing. I had to have surgery on my finger due to some basketball, jam finger, basketball, and then I played goalie soccer.
Oh, wow.
And that was on my right hand, which is my tennis hand. So that I was starting to feel like I couldn't grip the racket in tennis. Like I literally, my right little finger was like locked. So that was having a little bit. So I had surgery on that and got the strength back, and then I think I started getting more into tennis.
Okay.
So I didn't have that issue. So then I probably played a couple years, maybe 2017, 2018. I mean, it wasn't much before you. When did you?
I came to the club in 2017.
Okay, so it was right around then. Maybe 2016 I started.
Oh, okay.
So,
and then were you were doing singles and dubs? I know in league you really just played dubs.
Yeah.
But was that intentional? Like you wanted dubs more, or you just didn't?
I think I wanted dubs more. Yeah. I think I had a couple of those marathon singles matches in the heat, and I'll never forget, I was playing in Escondido one day.
Yeah.
And I was playing this guy. He's probably a little bit older than I was. And it was one of those 100-degree days, and I have never, ever forfeited a match. And it got into the third set, and I felt like I was going to pass out.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he's like, "Yeah, I mean, what?" He said, "What were you putting in your drink?" I go, "Nothing. I was just drinking water."
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, well, that's part of your problem.
Yeah.
You got to have the cocktail."
Yeah.
And from then on, and then I was watching you guys, and it's one of the things I learned from you and Dave and all of the the concoctions you would make for electrolytes. Because I wasn't taking any electrolytes in 100-degree weather, and it was just going right through me.
Yeah.
And I was getting, cramping up and all that stuff. So
yeah, totally.
But no, I always enjoyed doubles more than singles anyway.
Yeah.
I think I was a more accomplished doubles player.
Well, you're a big guy. You got a good serve. You're sort of a menace at the net. It's easy. It's probably easier for you.
It's a little easier. It was. I think I'm more of a kind of a shot maker than a tactician. A little more strategy in singles, a little more patience, a little more statistic probability, and I just like kind of the rapid fire of doubles. And I like the camaraderie of doubles.
Yeah.
I mean, I played a lot of other team sports like basketball and soccer growing up, and I always love the team aspect. So I think I could get that in doubles more.
Yeah. And you can't hit your partner in singles. You can only hit him in the back of the neck in doubles.
I can try to hit the opponent, but yeah.
Oh, man. I sort of glossed over this part. I always planned on doing the rapid fire of tell me a little about you outside of tennis, but tell me a little about your family. I know you're married, you have kids, and then a little about your work too, which is interesting and related to tennis.
Yeah. So married for my wife, Katie, 27 years. We have 3 kids, all soon to be in college. I've got 2 daughters and a son. One daughter's at San Diego State. She's a junior. One daughter's a sophomore at UC Santa Barbara.
Awesome.
And my son, who's a senior in high school here in Temecula, he just accepted for UCLA.
Oh, UCLA! Wow,
yeah, so
that's
he's going
so
to
cool.
go to UCLA, and he's going to play club lacrosse up there.
Wow.
So he's
and your 2 daughters playing sports too, or no?
No, they played high school lacrosse and volleyball, but they're just.
Oh, that's right. You guys are big on volleyball.
Yeah, they're having a good time, but not playing anything. But my son's going to give it a go.
That's awesome. And I don't remember. Does your wife play?
She wants to get back into it. She started playing when we met. She was a very good volleyball player, beach volleyball. But she taught me how to play beach volleyball. So, so we're looking to get back into it. Now that the kids, we're almost empty nesters, we'll have a little more free time on our hands.
Yeah.
So a little more time to work on those hobbies.
Yeah. And then so we haven't seen each other obviously because your jobs have been taking up a lot of your time and you're commuting to Florida. Yeah. So tell me a little about that.
Yeah. So I had this opportunity to open up. I work for Verizon, and we're obviously communication provider, and big push on 5G, and we're opening up a number of these 5G innovation hub/labs around the country. And we decided to open up one in Orlando, Florida, in this town called Lake Nona. And it was just a really unique opportunity for me to get on the ground floor of what we're doing around 5G and innovation. And this area of Lake Nona is a very interesting place. It really was created about 15, 20 years ago by a company called Tavistock that just bought this land next to the Orlando airport, and they've been developing it for the last 15, 20 years. And they have just a unique long-term vision of how they want to create a community. And they've been able to attract, a lot of interesting companies to relocate there, and with a focus on health and wellness and performance, human performance. And they were actually able to get from a tennis perspective, they were able to get the USTA to open up their national tennis headquarters there in Lake Nona. So that broke ground. Well, it opened officially in 2017 or 18.
Okay.
The new campus, 100 courts.
100 courts.
100 courts. So when we played the national, we played in, what was it, Florida? I mean, in Arizona. We played our nationals, right? Yeah. The sister campus, which is I think it's the main campus, but they're one's West Coast, one's East Coast.
Okay.
The East Coast one is in Lake Nona. So they have 100 courts. I think it's 40 clay courts in the hard true.
Wow.
And then they have 30 or so hard courts, and they're all the same. I think plexicushion, the one that they have at the U.S. Open. They actually have 6 red clay courts that mirror the French Open.
Wow.
And then they have 5 or 6 indoor courts. So it's an amazing facility.
Hard true is what?
Green clay, the green clay. So they have green clay, and then they have the red clay.
Yeah.
And then they have a stadium that's just for college tennis. So, in fact, I'm going back there. They're playing the NCAAs, D1, D2, and D3 starting this week.
That's right. Is it Sweet 16, or it's even lower than that?
Top 16 in each division.
It is, right?
I'm not sure how many there are.
Maybe it's less than that.
You're probably about right. I did watch the D3 last year. It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
I was talking to Adam about that, which was I went to Ojai. Have you ever been to Ojai?
Yeah.
Do you know? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So you know how awesome that is. But I was watching USC versus Utah in the finals of the Pac-12 and for men's, and then USC versus Stanford, I think, for women's. That was so fun.
Yeah.
I mean, their chants, they're like, everyone's just yelling.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I actually have a video of it, but there was this one guy from USC who was like doing the best chants for his buddy that was playing number one. And some people were actually getting mad. Like, be quiet. And he's like, hey, I'm in college cheering for my friend.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, it was so fun.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's different. I hadn't been to a college match in, quite a while.
Yeah.
And, just all the yelling, break on 4, break on 2, because it's, you couldn't tell what's happening on the other courts. So guys would yell out or their teammates that are watching would yell out.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of know what's going on. But I remember watching the finals of D3 and Chicago won, and they were just, piling on each other.
Yeah.
And I also remember one of this doubles match, and it was a couple guys that, glancing at them, I'm like, I didn't think they were going to hang with this other team. And I didn't know the seedings or anything like that. Turns out they were like the 4th seed. So they were pretty good. But unconventional. And, the coach was walking in the middle of points, or in the middle of games, between points, and he'd be giving them coaching. And I remember him saying, guys, you're not going to win. You're not going to beat these guys playing conventional. You need to mix it up.
Interesting.
And so I'd never seen this before, but they lined up on the ad side, serving. They were serving.
Both lined up on the ad side.
Well, they both lined up on the ad. No. Okay, so the server he was serving to the ad.
Okay.
Normally, the doubles partner is up front to the right.
Yeah, obviously.
In that service box.
Yeah, on the right. Yeah.
He lines up on the left.
Oh, I get you.
In that service box. Not middle, but left.
Forcing the returner to go up the line, really.
Forcing the returner to go up the line. Yeah, maybe the guy was just playing to his forehand. And then they both played back a lot. It was interesting to just watch the coach being, hands-on in the middle of a game, walking across the court.
Yeah.
And now like pros didn't they change the rules?
Yeah, they did. They allow coaching now. Obviously, they're not walking on the court, but but that is cool about college, how they're just in and out, and you see them talking, and then they're sort of walking out still, person serving. It's really seamless how they do it.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing, sort of to focus on here in doubles. It is important to be, I don't want to say tricky, but to be a little unconventional. Like our friend Joe that you were talking about earlier, he always, when I play with him, he's like, line up an I. And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable with this. But then he knows, like, that person at the returner is like, oh, now where do I go?
Yeah.
This person's lining up on the tee. Am I going to jump left or right for my volley?
Yeah.
And they got to think about that versus I just got to return cross court.
Right.
If you're conventionally standing where you're supposed to be.
No, I learned a lot from our friend Joe. He's a master tactician, always mixing it up, and because he doesn't, as he'll acknowledge, he's not going to overpower people.
Yeah.
So he's constantly thinking about how he can throw other people off their game, and I think that's the fascinating thing about doubles. It's playing to your strengths, but also recognizing real time, what the tendencies are of your opponents are.
Yeah.
And trying to exploit their weaknesses and keeping them off guard. And, I think,
What else is, before we skip to something else, but let's stay on your job in Florida, because I am interested in it, and we don't get to talk much. We'll say hi on text or whatever, but what else is going on there? Like, I'm interested about it. I know you were talking about it's the head of the USPTA.
Yeah, so they have the USTA. So that's where all the players go to train. So they have all their national coaches there.
Okay.
So, they do all their, their
players meaning pros?
Pros.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So all the pros go to train.
Okay.
They may have others. There's some other facilities even in Florida, But I think that's where the bulk of the coaches reside, and that's where a lot of the facilities are for, testing and things like that.
Is this like open to public courts?
Well, no. Yes, all the courts are open to the public with the exception of the 6 indoor courts and the 6 or so red clay courts, or 10 or so red clay courts. Okay. Those are exclusive to the pros.
Yeah.
That are training for upcoming events.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
But all the other courts are open to the public, and they do good. There's always some USTA tournaments going on there. And then it's also home to the USPTA, which is the certification body for, all the teaching pros out there, whether it's, clubs or, anywhere.
And for the nation then?
For the nation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you don't have to travel out there to get a certification, but they're sort of the main hub or whatever.
That's right.
Okay.
And they do broadcasts like this, for all the teaching pros out there, to keep them up to speed on what's going on in the teaching pro world.
Yeah.
And what they know to become certified, and cultivating that pipeline of teaching pros.
Are you interested in doing that at all? Have you thought about it, since you're right there? I mean,
to
get a certification to maybe teach?
I mean, I always thought about I would go back into that at some point in time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's potential.
Yeah.
But the other thing you asked me about the job. So I do a lot of things, that are non-sports related, but as it intersects with sports, it's really cool because I work in this like 15,000 square foot open floor plate space, and there's a number of startups there, and they're all sports oriented. So I'll have people in there that are working on technologies for swimming, or some sort of physical rehab type of technology.
Yeah.
Might be a new kind of wrap that uses blood flow restriction or red light therapy, things like that. And so it's fun. They're working with athletes, they're working with teams.
Wow.
And then we do, as Verizon, we do a lot of things with large sporting venues. So you'll see us in different stadiums doing, doing different things. And so,
do you get to try out anything like to help your body? Are you the bionic man right now? Like, are you doing any special stuff, or?
Just trying to keep up the yoga.
Okay.
There is a what do they call those? One of those chambers. We do have one of those in the office.
Do you really?
Yeah.
So I can
just go in there. I can bring my laptop and I can just zip it up and hang out for an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's as easy as like turning it on and off.
Yep.
On and off.
Turn it on and off. You zip it up, and and you just hang out there for 30, 60 minutes.
And what is it supposed to do? Like help the blood pressure, like get the blood moving?
Yeah,
do you know?
I'm not exactly sure of the science of it. It's supposed to, I'm not sure.
Or you know what? Now that I think about it, is it more? I think it might be more related to like comparable to like high altitude training or something like that.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. I think it might restrict your lungs a little, teach you sort of how to. I don't know. I know Marty Fish was big on that too. Like in that documentary, he said he started just living in one of those.
I think Rafa travels with one.
Really?
Oh, LeBron, Curry, they all use them. So
Wow.
they swear by it.
Oh wow.
I got a little claustrophobic. The only time I've done it, my ears started getting a little tight, and I'm like, "Is this normal?" And they're like, "Well, you can just turn it down a little bit." And I may have just been a little congested.
Okay.
But I think it's just getting a little used to.
Wow, that's so cool.
But
how about like cold pools and stuff like that? Is that anything big over there? Is anyone?
They've got these like, I do like cold pools.
Yeah.
I mean, I did, they actually have like the pants you can put on, and it gives you, it's compression, and then it's also cold,
Oh, that would be nice.
That's nice. Although I do like the full body jumping into a cold pool. I did use the cryotherapy out here. when we were playing our our tournaments back in those, I found that worked.
Like the stand-up ones that freeze you.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Jump in there for like 3 minutes.
Yeah. Those were good too.
Yeah.
I just thought it got a little too expensive, obviously. But
yeah.
Those were awesome.
Yeah.
Let's stay on doubles a little, I guess, but let's talk about what was hard for you in doubles. Like, obviously, like we're saying, you're tall, you had a good serve. Like, what did you find to be very tough?
What did I find to be very tough?
I mean, you're a good volleyer. You actually moved if I can picture you playing in my head, you had very good movement forward on your volley. Like, it wasn't like you were standing still on your heels. So I think you always had very good movement. Maybe that's attributed to basketball or soccer.
Yeah, I think I did. I don't think I had a good a low volley. I think I struggled with the low volley. I think I wasn't the guy in singles or double or singles that approached that all the time. I'd kick somebody out wide, or I'd hit a big forehand and come in, and I usually had a high kind of sitter volley. And so, never really worked on the technique at the lower volley. I probably wouldn't put so much my serve. I would probably change my serve up a little bit more if I felt a little more confident hitting that first low volley. And then I think the switch from the two-hander to the one-hander affected my return to serve.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I was and I had a big forehand, so I was always trying to run around my backhand.
Yeah.
And when you're young and agile, you're kind of spry and you can kind of get away with that.
Yeah.
But as you get a little older, you can't move around, or, they spot that and they start hitting flat serves. I remember our friend Keith, he's always got that flat serve.
Yep. And
it would jam me. It's like you don't have time to run around it.
Yeah.
I felt pretty good about running around kick serve. So that was, I kind of got a little locked in on my grip probably.
Yeah.
With a forehand grip.
Which is a thing that happens, and I think then we end up sort of chopping or slicing our backhand too. We might not be prepared to really release that backhand. And if I think back on your dubs too, you were probably slicing a lot of returns on your backhand.
I was slicing a lot of my returns, yeah.
Yeah.
And, I probably should have used the lob a little more effectively.
Yeah.
Because a chip without the lob is you're dead.
You're dead. And I've only been really thinking about lob the last year or so. And me and Adam were talking about this because we played in that National in Atlanta last year. And we saw this one guy who was, I think, ex-Australian Davis Cup. And he was using it a lot.
Yeah.
Because the guys were slamming the net so much. Like that guy at the net, server back, guy at the net was like on top of the net. He didn't have to do much with the lob to make it effective.
Absolutely.
And so he maybe didn't have, obviously he was ex-Davis Cup, so he was probably amazing, but he didn't have the best backhand probably. But he would utilize that low chip slice cross court as a return, and then throw in that lob. And it doesn't have to be this amazing topspin lob, just a nice chip over their head.
Yeah. And depending on your competition, if they're people are getting getting a little older, they're not getting up.
That's true too.
To get that overhead as quickly as they used to.
Yeah.
So they might let that go.
Yeah.
Whereas you're playing in your early 20s, they're going to get it and they're going to make you pay for it.
Yep.
You get in your 40s, they'll let that go, and then you can follow that up. So I think it just keeps them on their toes a little bit more, keeps them off the net, because some people, if you don't lob, they're just going to be draped all over that net, and your margin gets gets smaller and smaller.
And I think when people see you sort of set up for a slice, that's like their eyes get big. Like, ooh, like now I'm going to see that ball sort of float, obviously, so they get a little big. So you got to throw in that chip lob.
Yeah, and I think you got to be ready to go. I mean, now that I'm thinking back, you got to go at the net guy too.
Totally.
If you're always trying to thread the needle, cross court, it just puts more pressure on the returner, and it gets more predictable.
Adam was saying, that he will go right at the net person usually in the first game.
Yeah.
Maybe even, twice or three times, depending on how many times he gets to return. And just to let him know, hey, I'm going to go up the line. So don't think you can just pick me off all day long. And I think that's pretty effective to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and it also tests their volleys, right? I mean, it's one thing to close out an easy poach.
Yeah.
But if you get jammed, let's see how good your hands are.
And you're totally right, because that's something I've been thinking about more is, especially when you go up the line, sometimes we're sort of, our thought process is I got to hit a winner down the line, but it allows them to reach. But I think if you go at them, it even might be more effective, because first of all, you're not going to hit that tight window up the line, probably like you think you are, right, for the winner. And here is a lot different than if they're extended and they can sort of do what they want with it, right, and angle it away and things like that. Yeah, so you're so right. When we played league, what do you think? Like, I know we were a 4-5 league at that time. Like, did you have aspirations to try to play a 5-0 league? Were you not thinking about that stuff? Like, because I know we were talking about, like, I could have maybe done more to increase my level. Are you thinking about that now? Or are you just happy doing what you're doing? You're playing, you're having fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You get to a certain age, I'm early 50s, so I'm not sure trying to climb back up is, in the cards.
So you're not playing anything outside, just friendly tennis right now then?
Just doing some workout tennis.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got into padel.
That's right. You were telling me about that.
And I play a little pickle, but just really with some friends that are the startups that I work with.
Okay.
And they're not really tennis players, so they invite me to go out and play pickle, which is, I will say it's fun, and it's fun to play with them because there's, it's the barrier to entry is lower, right?
Yeah.
And you can have a kind of a fun match with people that aren't, highly skilled, racket sport people. And it's funny, they hosted the pickleball national championships at Lake Nona in December.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was hanging out there watching the top guys, and I would sit there for hours just kind of, like analyzing it. Like, what are they doing?
So is it that fun to watch?
So that's what's interesting. I would say it is. I enjoyed watching it because I was looking at how to put it into practice. Do I think it has the upside of, like tennis and, playing at an elite level? I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But it's a very popular game that a lot of people are playing, and you can go and watch, and you can kind of pick up some pointers.
Yeah.
About how to play in the kitchen. Ding cross court, and then just how to set up your volley. I mean, there's not that many shots per se.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a little bit of that, and then there's they built, I don't know, 4 or 6 or 8 padel courts, and that is a sport, if you're not aware, is you play off the walls. It's very popular in Latin America and Europe.
And the walls are glass?
The walls are glass.
Okay.
And it's similar. It's a little more padded than a pickleball racket. And the ball moves fast, like a tennis ball.
So is the ball hard? I'm trying to imagine it. I've only seen it played on YouTube. Is it more of like a harder like a handball, or is it like a racquetball?
No, it's like a tennis ball.
Oh, it is.
It's like a tennis ball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's exactly a tennis ball or it's slightly more or less pressured, but it moves fast. But it's similar to a tennis ball. And you play off the wall, and there's a couple lines, but the lines really are only to kind of start the points for serving, because you got to serve it diagonally. The scoring is the same as tennis.
Oh, wow.
Exactly the same. But the rallies go on for a long time. The serve is underhand, so it's just, there's a little technique to getting it in and making it a little bit of a weapon, but it's not like you're serving people off the court.
Okay.
So the rallies are quite long. You got the biggest challenge, and you can hit clean volleys. I mean, you can feel like you're hitting a nice tennis volley, and you can hit full overheads.
Yeah.
But if you hit the full overhead and it bounces off the wall, and the person on the other side knows how to play it and reads the angle right, they can actually be at advantage.
That's right. So very racquetball-ish too.
It's like racquetball, squash, with more of a tennis racket. So I think that sport is going to be, it's particularly attractive to tennis players because it does require, some racket type of, technique. So people good at tennis are gonna pick that up easier than other people.
So is there singles and dubs? Do you know?
Just doubles.
Just doubles. Okay,
it's too much court to cover for singles.
I was just going to say,
I've never seen
anyone play singles on YouTube.
Yeah,
and I know Barnes Center in San Diego is now trying to really pick it up.
They've got some.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting to watch. And I've watched at the USTA. They also have the kids courts, and so they're starting with like Nerf balls.
Okay.
And so they've got a little bit of everything. And I think there's some people out there with like, oh, what's going to happen? Pickleball is going to take over the tennis courts, or padel. And I think I'm a big believer in keeping tennis fun.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that team environment, the team environment that we played in, the team environment that I grew up in, the team environment that we played in college. But I also am looking for, how do you make tennis easier to learn? And how do we grow the game? And I think the more we can get kids or anybody playing racket sports, and just getting into these type of games and enjoying it, I think they will gravitate towards tennis.
Totally.
Tennis is sort of like the graduate sport. It is hard to learn. I mean, there is a lot to learn. So pickleball, whereas it's easy to learn, you might do that for a while and you go, you know what, I'm ready to go play tennis.
That's true. I never thought of it that way. Sort of saw them as competitors, but maybe not. That's like ping pong. Like, I know we wanted to play ping pong while you were down here. We'll try to still do that maybe. But there was this, did you get to go play in Old Town Temecula? There was this ping pong restaurant bar.
Yeah.
Did you hear about it?
I've heard about it. I saw your story.
It closed down.
I'm bummed.
Oh my gosh, that place was awesome. I forget the name of what it was called. Topspin. That's what it was called. But they had a bunch of tables everywhere, good food, drinks, pizza. And then they had this one room that you had to pay a little more. And no one wanted to pay because they just wanted to go play. But, me, Tom, and all the other guys, we would pay for that good room, and we'd just have battles.
Oh, gosh.
So fun.
I've had, it's a funny story. I've had some battles. We have in the hub, where I work, there's a ping pong table. And I've had some battles. But there was a bar in Santa Barbara that had a ping pong table. And we would go down there with a bunch of family friends, and we would just go out the beach and hang out and play volleyball. But then there was a core of us that wanted to go play ping pong. So we would go to this bar, and I never forget, I actually brought my paddle. So instead of this other guy, and there was this other guy, and he was just about to walk out, and he saw us, and he was a pretty good player. He'd been running the table.
Okay.
And then he was about ready to call it a day. And then he saw us come in with our paddles, and he's like, I got to stick around.
Yep.
So then he got into the battle. There's 4 of us, and it was, there was beer all over the floors, but we were kicking off our flip flops, and we were playing barefoot, and we were running around the tables, and it was fun.
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
It's
it's like the guy in the pool hall walking in with his pool stick. You're like, okay, he might know something.
Yeah. No, I'd like to see more bars with ping pong tables. I mean, ping pong, I love.
Oh, it's so fun.
So much fun.
Everyone can play that.
Yeah.
It's so fun. And then you can eat and have some fun. You can pig out and relax.
Totally.
And talk, and no one has to be quiet. It's so fun. So, if we can maybe, one thing I really have enjoyed doing watching YouTube is I almost don't care what level a person is. They have something to provide in the way of teaching me something.
Yeah.
And so I don't need to follow the greatest tennis coach on earth to like get something out of something, right?
Right.
And so, is there anything right now I know you're just playing more casually right now, but is there anything I think we talked about your serve sort of, but is there anything you're trying to attempt to learn better, or you're focusing on right now, or anything like that?
Well, to be honest, I had, golf has been my focus the last 2 years, because like, I got to get my golf game to a point where it's not so frustrating. So I've had some time on my hands while I'm going back and forth, and they had a little simulator that I could hit into.
Oh, so awesome.
And, so that's been good to get a lot of repetition, and had a few lessons that I haven't had in 30 years and, and watching some YouTubes. So, it's kind of taught me how this new world of, all this information in this coaching that's available to us, via these golf simulation. I'm not sure the same thing exists in tennis per se. Although you talked about, tools like Swing Vision. I think I haven't used it, but I've heard good things. And then YouTube. But I mean, I think I mentioned it, earlier in the broadcast or before we started that there's a couple guys that are doing these, tennis tutorials online, and I actually subscribe to it.
Yeah.
And I've just, I've been picking up tips, on the serve and other stuff that I'll probably, now that my leg's feeling, back to relatively normal, I'm going to start, ramp it up a little bit more.
What do you think as a 4-5? What do you, like, let's say a 3-0 came to you, or maybe even someone a little less, like just sort of starting out. Like, what kind of stuff are you telling them? Like, I know you're not coaching or nothing right now, but I'm just saying, like, your son or some friend comes up to you and says, I want to start playing. Like, what's the important thing you're telling them? Besides, obviously enjoy it, like you were saying, very important. But I mean, from a tennis, maybe mechanics perspective or anything like that, is there anything that you would tell them to focus on? And the only reason, not to cut you off or to answer your question, the only reason I bring this up is I've been on this kick of focusing on less. Like, I used to always focus on my arm. I got to do the C for the backswing. I got to do this. I got to drop it below to do topspin. And I've really lately started focusing on keeping that as simple as possible.
Yeah.
And just doing more shoulder turn, more torso turn.
Yeah.
And sort of less is more with my arm.
Yeah. And
I think it's been bringing my level up dramatically. Because now when someone's killing the ball at me, I'm keeping it real simple. Like I think I talked about another podcast. I'm not blocking it, but it feels more like I don't have to do anything, but just sort of just turn my hips.
Right.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything like that, like you would tell someone? Or
I haven't taught in a while, but I was a teaching pro in college. That's kind of how I paid my way through college.
Okay.
And I'm sure you read it, The Inner Game of Tennis.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
that was,
of course,
that was the book I read when I was 19, and kind of wish I read it when I was like 14.
So, what's funny is I've only listened to it on audio.
Okay.
I should read it, probably, maybe get a different perspective. But.
Yeah. And it kind of talks about, and it's, there's a lot of parallels with life. It's just, you just gotta block, it's awareness, and it's blocking things out, and it's focus, and it's just letting it come out,
Yeah.
And so when I was coaching, I was trying to be conscious of not over instructing, and giving them too many swing thoughts, and just letting them react a little bit more.
Yeah.
So if they're just making contact and they're moving their body, I'm just trying to get them to move a little bit more, a little more fluid. Sometimes I would rapid fire with a little bit, but just get them to move so they're not so mechanical.
Yep.
And they're overanalyzing things. Because I tended to think that leads to a little, once you feel how you hit it, you kind of recognize that feeling.
Oh yeah.
And you
totally.
you want to replicate it, and you're able to replicate it. But if you're stationary and you're mechanical and you got too many swing thoughts, it's like golfing. It's like you just get paralyzed and you don't know why you did it wrong.
Yeah.
So that was my teaching philosophy back then.
Yeah.
Now
but what you're saying is important, because even me, when I go take a lesson, I feel sometimes I have too many questions, because I like I'll compare myself to when someone asks me a question. I'm like, why are you thinking about that stuff? That's what I'll tell someone sometimes.
Right.
They'll ask me like, well, should my grip be exactly here or a millimeter over here? Or then all these little things get in your head. It's like, does that really matter? It
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't matter because someone else is going to do it differently than you, and trust me, they're amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so none of the small things do matter. More as you gain the climb the ladder kind of thing, but I don't think they do matter at the beginning. Like you want good mechanics, you want nice easy swings.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we're like YouTube's amazing, but maybe we're thinking about too much.
Yeah.
I think even me.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. I mean, my parallels for now, right now is that, I've taken my first golf lessons in 30 years, right?
Oh, you just started taking golf lessons.
Yeah. So now, and I was always a decent golfer. I mean, I would shoot, whatever, mid-90s, but I was like, I got to be able to do better than this. I got to be able to break 90 and shoot in the 80s consistently.
Matt, I'm so happy you said mid-90s right now. I can't tell you how many friends of ours, I won't name him, who will say like, oh yeah, I'm not very good. I don't play that often. Shot an 84. I'm like, you did not shoot an 84.
Yeah.
You didn't. Yeah. If you don't play that often, you didn't shoot an 84. Unless you dropped a ball out of your pocket when no one's looking, unless you took those mulligans, unless you picked up that putt. You didn't shoot an 84.
Yeah. No, I putt everything in because the only golf I played, you got to putt everything in. So there's no shortcuts. Awesome. I mean, I shot my first 84, but that was my first 84 ever.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But it's still I struggle to break 90. Yeah. Just trying to eliminate some of the bad shots. But it's been interesting to be on the other side of things and just have a pro go, Matt, you're a good athlete. Just swing like an athlete. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's what I used to tell people when I was teaching.
Yeah.
But sometimes and I can appreciate that because he was trying to simplify it for me. Like, don't have too many swing thoughts. I would literally have in my back pocket, I would have all these notes about all my swing thoughts.
Oh my gosh.
And he goes, you just need to burn that. You got way too many things going on. I'm like, yeah, but I got to make it repeatable. Yeah. And there is a balance between, kind of, making some mental or physical notes about some things so you learn from your mistakes and you've got to make it repeatable. So there's a balance. I mean, I do have I'm teaching my wife and kids how to play golf, and it does start with just posture, and grip. It's important, and then there's a lot of the same similar stuff about eye on the ball and totally. Follow through, and which are parallels with tennis. Obviously, tennis, you throw in a lot of variables because the ball's always moving. You got spin, you got backhands, forehands, and there's a lot of moving parts. The serve is one thing you can practice on your own. Yeah. That's just, you got to, watch some YouTubes, get some lessons. Yeah. Because that's something you can practice on your own. There's no variables other than maybe wind.
But it's so interesting that you're saying there's similarities because only recently, again, I've been really noticing the similarities between all sports. And then as I watch more videos on biomechanics, I came across, and I wish I knew this guy's name because it's very helpful, actually. Maybe I'll try to remember it and I'll talk about next podcast. But he was a guy who helped Sabalenka's serving mechanics because she was double faulting and people were thinking it was in her head because we usually think, hey, if you don't make your second serve, you're nervous, you're tight. Right. And this guy who was not really, he played some tennis, but he wasn't like a tennis biomechanic guy. Yeah. Like he was, I think, a football quarterback biomechanic guy or a baseball pitcher biomechanic guy. Yeah. And he was the guy who was hired to help Sabalenka with her service motion. Yeah. And he talks about it, and it was so eye-opening how there's so many similarities between all sports. Right. So just really interesting. I've been really getting into biomechanics lately, without, like I said, without focusing too much on little details like for my level, like grip or what I'm doing but just turning and using my like legs and hips and shoulders and stuff I never thought about before. Yeah. So just really interesting.
Yeah. No, I think, in golf and baseball and tennis, getting your hands, your shoulders, and your hips to move in the same, in a rhythm is critical.
And I'm even just thinking about baseball, how like you don't think of it, but how they roll the bat over like in a good hit. And it's very Tennessee.
Right.
Like, watch Slow-Mo of Federer, which I now talk about on every podcast, but Slow-Mo of Federer, like how much he rolls over after he hits.
Yeah.
How loose his wrist is, how free-flowing it is, how much his shoulders turn. It's so similar. I really hate doing this to you, Matt, but, I was going to try to cut it off at 10 minutes ago just because we were talking about my problems with my camera and all these things, but it's an hour and 5 minutes, and I know we can go for like another 2-3 hours.
All right, well, we'll just have to go back and do it again.
I know. I wish there was actually a lot more things I wanted to talk to you about, but I really appreciate you coming, man. This was so cool.
This is really great. Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we got to get some ping pong in, hopefully.
Oh, for sure.
So when do you go back to Florida?
I go back on Tuesday, but then I'm back out in a couple weeks for my son's graduation. So
cool.
We'll get some ping pong and/or some tennis.
Okay, cool.
Back on the table.
Or maybe we'll try padel somewhere. We'll see.
Okay, awesome.
Well, thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Tony.
Close this off here.